Chaos erupts in London, pro-Hamas. Protesters fight back as streets descend into turmoil. Is Britain on the edge of anarchy? London is in the grip of violent unrest. What started as a peaceful demonstration has spiraled into chaos, and many are left asking, is this the new normal for Britain? As pro-Hamas protesters clashed with pro-Israel supporters, the city's streets were engulfed in flames of anger, ideological division, and frustration. Yet the real question now isn't just about these protests. Are we witnessing the collapse of law and order in the United Kingdom? With public trust in authorities at an all-time low and the streets resembling a battleground, is this the beginning of a deeper, more dangerous societal fracture? The battle for London, more than just a protest. Yesterday's protest was supposed to be a peaceful rally, or at least that's what many believed. What unfolded, however, was nothing short of a modern-day battleground in the heart of London. Thousands of protesters from both sides of the Israel-Palestine conflict faced off in violent skirmishes, with pro-Hamas activists clashing head-on with pro-Israel supporters. The tension, already at a boiling point due to the ongoing crisis in the Middle East, erupted into open warfare on British soil. Streets once filled with commuters, shoppers, and tourists became a chaotic scene of violence as London descended into lawlessness. Stones were thrown, fists flew, and the cacophony of hate-filled chants filled the air, all while a line of outnumbered and seemingly powerless police officers stood by, attempting to contain the carnage. What happened to the rule of law? Who is really to blame? There's no question that these protests were more than a mere expression of political opinion. They were a battleground of deep-seated hatred. As the hours went by, scenes of violence became more and more graphic, with pro-Hamas demonstrators not only waving flags, but shouting vile anti-Semitic insults. Shocking videos surfaced of Holocaust mockery and chilling calls for the destruction of Israel, often directed toward Jewish individuals living in the UK. Is this hate speech under the guise of free expression? As these protesters marched through London, chanting slogans glorifying Hamas, a group designated as a terrorist organisation by the UK government, many wondered, how far are we willing to let freedom of speech go when it becomes a vehicle for hate and violence? What's even more baffling is the police response, or rather the lack thereof. How is it that anti-Semitic chants can be screamed in the streets of London with barely any intervention? Is the UK police force paralysed by fear of being accused of bias? A terrifying double standard. Police pick and choose. Perhaps one of the most disturbing aspects of this unfolding nightmare is the double standard in police enforcement. On one side, pro-Israel protesters were arrested, removed, and surrounded by officers simply for holding signs like, "Hamas is a terrorist group." Meanwhile, pro-Hamas demonstrators, despite shouting explicit hate speech and glorifying violence, were allowed to march on, unimpeded. What's going on? The viral videos of these arrests have sparked a nationwide outcry. Are the police afraid of intervening in the pro-Hamas demonstrations? Why is it that one group's inflammatory rhetoric is seemingly tolerated, while the other faces harsh crackdowns for merely defending their right to safety? Is this the kind of justice we want in Britain? The hypocrisy is impossible to ignore. As the media spins its usual narrative, the reality on the streets is clear. Some voices are being silenced while others are given free rein to spew venom. If the police can no longer enforce the law fairly, are we headed toward a lawless state where mob rule takes over? A broken society. Is the UK beyond repair? This is about more than just a protest. This is about the collapse of British society as we know it. As the divisions between communities grow deeper, are we witnessing the end of multiculturalism? The UK has long prided itself on its tolerance and diversity, but recent events beg the question, has that dream turned into a nightmare? Racial, religious, and political tensions have reached a fever pitch, with Hamas sympathizers and pro-Israel supporters both accusing the government of betrayal. The pro-Hamas crowd argues that Britain's historical support for Israel is tantamount to complicity in the oppression of Palestinians. Meanwhile, the pro-Israel side, many of whom are Jewish, are increasingly fearful for their safety as anti-Semitic rhetoric is openly espoused on British streets. This is no longer just about politics. It's about the identity of the United Kingdom. Are we a nation that allows hate speech to flourish in the name of free speech? Or are we going to reclaim our streets from the brink of anarchy, the deafening silence of the royal family? Where are they? Amid this chaos, many have turned to the British royal family for a sense of leadership and unity. But what have they offered in return? Silence. While Princess Kate attends glamorous events and participates in the celebrations of Britain's elite, the streets of London burn with anger and hate. Is this what leadership looks like in 2024? How can the royal family, a symbol of stability and unity, remain silent in the face of such division and disorder? Their silence is not just conspicuous, it's damning. A government adrift, Labour under fire. And where is the government in all of this? As the protests rage on, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has sparked another firestorm by cutting £22 billion from the foreign aid budget, a move that many have deemed a betrayal of the UK's global responsibilities. But as the government turns its focus outward, what about the crisis right here at home? The growing criticism of police bias, the collapse of public order, and the rampant anti-Semitism on the streets have all cast a long shadow over Labour's ability to govern. Are they too busy with political posturing to address the clear and present danger right here in the UK? Foreign Secretary David Lammy has pushed back, arguing that the government must focus on its international role. But how can Britain be a global leader if it can't even keep its own streets safe? Are we on the brink of total collapse? If these protests are any indication, the UK is heading toward an era of civil unrest not seen in decades. As more and more demonstrations are planned, and with the tensions between pro-Hamas and pro-Israel supporters continuing to escalate, what happens next? Will these protests become more violent, leading to even greater bloodshed on British soil? We must face a grim possibility. Britain could be on the brink of societal collapse. Public trust in the police, the government, and even the royal family is crumbling. As hate speech is given a platform, and the authorities appear powerless to stop it, is the UK doomed to fall into a cycle of violence? A call to action. Stand up for Britain. This is a defining moment in British history. The future of our country hangs in the balance, and we cannot afford to stay silent any longer. The British people must demand accountability from those in power. The police, the government, and the royal family have a responsibility to uphold the values of fairness, justice, and peace. This is no longer about left or right, pro-Israel or pro-Palestine. This is about Britain's survival as a nation of law and order. We must take back our streets from those who seek to divide us. Will you stand up for a united, peaceful Britain? Or will you watch as our country descends into chaos? Your voice matters. What do you think about the ongoing unrest in London? Are the police doing enough? Should the government and the royal family be doing more to address the issue? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a conversation about the future of Britain. Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay united. Together, we can save Britain.